The number one reason people quit data engineering is not that the field is too hard. It genuinely isn't. The real reason people quit is that they learn everything in the wrong order, get overwhelmed, and burn out feeling permanently lost. They learn a flashy tool before they have learned the fundamental it depends on, so nothing makes sense. They skip the boring foundations to chase the exciting stuff, and then they hit a wall they don't understand. So in this video, I'm going to give you the exact path I would follow if I had to start over again from zero today, in order. And most importantly, I'm going to tell you the reason behind every single step. Because if you don't understand why you are learning something, you will not push through the hard part to finish it. And I have added one more layer to this roadmap that most guides completely miss: how to work with AI as a data engineer. So you are not just learning the field, you are learning it the way it actually works in the modern world. And just so you know, this isn't theory for me. I have earned certifications across the major cloud platforms and built real pipelines for real companies. So the order I'm about to give you is the one that holds up in the actual job, not just on paper. And before I give you the very first step, I have to say a quick word about where you should absolutely not get this roadmap from, because getting this wrong is what costs people years of their lives. The university version of this exact path is the same destination reached by the single slowest, most expensive road available. 2 to 4 years of your life, structured almost entirely around theory and exams, and taught in a lot of cases by people who haven't actually shipped a real data pipeline in industry in years, if they ever have at all. And here is the cruel twist that hits career switchers the hardest. This field moves the fastest. The specific tools you would study in your first year are half replaced by the time you graduate. So you would walk out of that program with a certificate, some very real debt, and this is the painful part. You would still need months of hands-on practice on current tools before you are genuinely hireable, because the classroom version never actually matched the real job in the first place. So this roadmap I'm about to give you is the exact opposite of that. Current tools, real projects, and you start building genuinely hireable evidence within weeks, not years. It's the same mountain either way. You are just refusing to take the 4 years to even reach that level. So same summit, tiny fraction of the time and cost. You will reach the same destination with a tiny fraction of the time and cost. All right, let's build the path. The first layer is the foundation, and there are 2 skills that sit underneath absolutely everything else you will ever do in this field. They are SQL and Python, and I want to be really precise about the level you need here, because people get this wrong in both directions. You don't need to be some kind of advanced wizard in each one, but you do need to be genuinely fluent. The kind of a fluent where you can write it without stopping to overthink every line. Let me tell you what each one is actually for. In a plain text, or in plain terms, SQL is how you talk to data. It's the language you use to ask questions of data that's sitting in a database or a data warehouse. So you try to ask, pull me these rows, join these 2 tables, give me this summary. If data is the world, SQL is how you have a conversation with it, and that's about SQL. And Python is how you move data and automate things. It's the glue. It's how you grab data from one place, push it into another, and wrap the whole thing in logic that runs on its own. And here is the mistake I see constantly, so please don't make it. People skip this foundation to chase the exciting, impressive sounding tools, and they build their entire house on sand. Every single person who does this hits a wall right around month 3, gets confused and frustrated, and blames the tool they were learning. But it was never the tool. It was the missing foundation underneath it. Get SQL and Python solid first, and everything after them becomes 10 times easier. Once you have got those 2, there is one concept that ties the whole field together, and it's worth understanding early. How data flows from a source through some kind of a transformation to a destination. That's the heartbeat of everything. You will hear the term ETL and ELT thrown around. They are just 2 different orders for doing those same steps, and we already covered the differences on another video. But the moment you start seeing data as something that moves through stations like water through a system, this entire field stops being scary and starts being genuinely logical. Now we get to the tools, the layer everyone wants to jump straight to. Here is the secret that makes it all the difference. Each of these tools earns its place by solving a specific problem that's the previous step just created for you. That order is the entire secret to learning them in a way that actually sticks. Let me walk you through it. First, where does the data live? You learn a cloud data warehouse, something like BigQuery or Snowflake, and you learn this first for a really obvious reason. You need somewhere to actually put the data before you can do anything else with it. No warehouse, nowhere to work. So it comes first, right? Next, how do you transform it? Now, that raw, messy data is landed in your warehouse, in your data warehouse. You have got a new problem, right? It's messy and you need a clean, repeatable, professional way to shape it. And that exact problem is what a tool called dbt or Dataform was built to solve. See how it's answering the problem the last step created. Next, how do you schedule it? Running all of this by hand every morning obviously doesn't scale, right? And you have got better things to do. Now you need orchestration. A tool like Airflow to run your pipelines automatically, reliably, on time, without you again. That's solving the problem the previous steps handed you. And finally, how do you do all of this like professional? Instead of clicking around manually inside the cloud console like a beginner, you learn Terraform and you define your infrastructure as a code. So this is the exact line that separates a junior from someone who is actually hireable. So do you see the pattern running through all of that? Every single tool is the answer to a problem that the previous step created. When you learn them in that connected order, they stick permanently because each one has a reason to exist in your mind. When you instead learn them as a random checklist of logos to collect, they evaporate within a week. Order isn't a nice to have here. It's the whole thing. And then comes the final layer, the layer that did not exist a few years ago. And honestly, it's the one that separates a modern data engineer from one who is already falling behind. Once you have got the fundamentals and understand the tools, the purpose of all of that, and the whole stack, you learn to work with AI on top of all of it. And not to replace your thinking, but as a serious multiplier by how much you can get done. Let me be really practical about this, because most people talk about it in vague terms and it helps nobody. We'll start with what you should actually hand off to AI, because this is where the real time saving lives, the boring, repetitive mechanism part of the job. Like writing a first draft of a transformation you have written 100 times before. Generating the basic code that every pipeline needs but nobody enjoys typing. Writing tests for your data so you can catch problems before they reach anyone. Drafting the documentation that you know you should write, but you did not get the time to do so, and explaining a confusing error message that you got last night. So instead of losing an hour or more scrolling through forums, exploring, trying to understand, debugging, all of that you can now offload and get back minutes and hours every single day. And then there is the next step up for that, which is where it gets genuinely powerful. Building simple agent. Now, don't let that word scare you. An agent in plain text is just a small AI-powered helper that you set up once to handle a repetitive task on its own. Imagine a little helper that checks your incoming data every morning and flags anything that looks broken before it causes a problem downstream. Or one that watches your pipeline and writes you a plain English summary of what ran and what failed. So you are not building science fiction, right? You are writing up a small, reliable assistant to do a job you would otherwise do by hand over and over. That's the mindset shift. You stop being the person who does every repetitive task and you become the person who builds the thing that does it for you. But you have to know what not to hand off. AI is genuinely brilliant at the task, as you already know. It is not the one making the decisions. It doesn't decide how your whole system should be designed. It doesn't know whether your data can actually be trusted. It doesn't understand your business or the real-world consequences when a number is wrong. That judgment, the architecture, the data quality calls, the design decisions, that is the valuable core of your job. And it's exactly the part AI cannot do for you. So here is the honest way to think about it. And it should make you feel optimistic, not threatened. AI automates the tasks. It doesn't automate the thinking, which means the data engineer who learns to hand off the boring work and put that saved time into better thinking becomes dramatically more valuable, not replaceable. You are not competing with the machine. You are the one holding its leash, and learning to do that well early is one of the biggest edge you can give yourself right now. So there it is. The complete map, foundation first, then the stack in its proper order, then the proof that ties it all together. It looks so clean when it's laid out like that on the screen. But here's the uncomfortable truth, and I'm not going to hide it to make you feel good. Most people who have this exact roadmap, the very one I just gave you, still never actually make it. They have every single step written down in front of them. They still pause, procrastinate, and quit. And it's not because the steps are wrong, it's because of 3 specific traps that have absolutely nothing to do with the curriculum, nothing to do with the plan, nothing to do with the roadmap that I just laid out to you, and everything to do with how people actually behave when the initial excitement fades and nobody watching them. You might watch this video, feel motivated, then you start, but after a few hours, maybe a few days, disappears, vanish. You forget. So this is what we call it initial excitement. And if you don't see these 3 traps coming for you in advance, you will quietly become the person with the perfect plan and absolutely 0 results. So next video, the 3 traps that stop people who already have the roadmap and exactly how to beat every one of them. So this is the difference between planning and actually arriving. And if you don't see these 3 traps coming for you in advance, you will quietly become that person with the perfect plan and absolutely 0 results. In the next video, I will name all 3 of them and give you the specific fix for each one. You don't want to miss it.